Hello, welcome to RC Video Reviews. It is Saturday, October 7th, 2023. We are rapidly approaching the end of the year, and the big holiday season is right around the corner, at least for us in the U.S. It's coming. Welcome to the show tonight, and Freddie's back on top again, so he's been active all week. I can tell you that. We kept him moving this week, so I had a week off, so we got to do a little bit of flying, and we actually goofed around and had a good time, and hopefully get one more fly day in before it's all over. We'll see. Wolfie made it in second. How you doing, Dave? Good to see you. Mitch Gentry, I'm here. Glad you could make it, Mitch. Welcome. Bradley Norton, good evening all. And G.I. Wyron. Guy Wyron, Greg W. Greg, first time caller, he says. Welcome to the show, Greg W. Let's see. Cameron Dasso is here. How you doing, Cameron? From Arkansas. Glad you can make it. T. Evans is here. Good evening from SLC, Utah. Who's on first? That's right, man. Hobie, in and out. Too bad, Hobie. You'll catch the replay. Thanks for popping in and saying hello anyway. Keith is here. How you doing, Keith? From up north in Massachusetts. Let's see who else. I think that's everybody that I see. Oh, there's a couple more. Rambo Flight Ken is here. FL Engineer is here. Tim is here. Had a fun flying my new Whoop today. Very cool, flying the Wolf. Cold and windy here. I set up my new transmitter. Nice. Good. Well, I'm glad you guys are out there doing stuff in the hobby and having a good time. That's awesome. So yeah, week off this week, and Florida, it's one of those deals where Florida just did not let me have the week to go do what I wanted. We got rain on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. Fred and I finally made it out on Tuesday, and there were some crazy wildfires in Canada, and we were getting the air quality from Canada it was coming down here, and it was very poor, very nasty. So Fred and I were actually out for a couple of hours, and by the time, I think we spent 3 or 4 hours outside, by the time we got to the end, my eyes were burning. It was getting hard to breathe. It was pretty nasty out there. So we didn't make a full day, but we got out and we had a good time. And then we also got out. What was that? Thursday, Fred? I think with Thursday we got some time. We good long day at the field. We did some flying, played with the helicopter, and I had to. I'm going to switch to the big camera because let's see, where is the big camera? Here it is. There it is, Fred. That's Fred took my uncrashable helicopter and he crashed it. But to be fair to the uncrashable helicopter, these are the parts I have to replace. It's a tail slider on the M4. To be fair to the helicopter, though, that wasn't due or while any of those mechanisms were in place. So Freddie had already landed, and I was actually starting to walk out onto the runway, and instead of hitting the cutoff switch on the right-hand side, which is where I put my cutoff switch, he hit the cutoff switch on the left-hand side, which is where he puts his cutoff switch. And instead of being the cutoff switch, he actually hit the rescue. The helicopter took off. He pulled the collective down, let go of the switch, and it came down kind of hard. Fortunately, that was the only damage. It was just a tail slider. So, but we talked about this. We're gonna talk about this a little bit in the PilotJam tonight. We have a couple things to talk about, but fortunately, not major damage, no big deal. And it was not a reflection on the crash-proof attributes of the helicopter itself. And while we're on that subject, I'll tell you that the OMP M4 Spirit configuration has come along very, very nicely. We did a lot of testing, a lot more testing, and I got it to the point a couple weeks ago where I posted my config in Discord, but Fred and I continue to work on it because we're throwing different scenarios at it. That was the idea. And by throwing some different scenarios at it, we did things like, what happens if we invoke GPS rescue while we're flying? What happens if we invoke just rescue, not return to home, just the rescue switch while we're inverted? What happens if we do it if we're upright? What happens if we do it while we're inverted and have motion? And what happens if we do it when we're upright and have motion? And then, we're doing a bunch of testing. I think we finally have it at a point right now where I would say I'm even thinking about doing the geofence, because you can do a geofence with the Spirit GT and the GPS as well. And I think between the altitude limit, a geofence, and either the rescue or return to launch or any combination thereof, you've got a pretty bulletproof setup, I would say. One thing that I would say has been very constant on the helicopter is that we have not been able to violate the hard deck no matter what we do. So no matter what we try, if we set that hard deck, that's it. It is literally a hard deck. And the helicopter, when it hits that hard deck, it's almost like hitting the ground, except nothing breaks. The helicopter just says nope, and it climbs. So I've been very happy with it, and I think we really have it very, very close to being a machine that can be taken out and really utilized to develop skills on flying helicopters. So I'm excited about it. I'm having a good time with it, and once I get the parts in, parts are already ordered. Once they get here, we'll get it back up in the air again, and we'll keep flying. So anyway, yeah, that was the kind of stuff that was done off camera. We really didn't do any of that on camera. That was off camera. So what I did on camera though, and that's what's in the ticker down at the bottom, I did the Express LRS USB joystick. That thing's kind of cool. The little squid stick. I like it. I like it because you don't have to worry about anything. You just plug it in your computer, put it on a USB cable, tuck it away somewhere, and it's just on. And whenever you connect your radio, it'll be there for you. So very nice. I like that. And then the second video I did was actually a result of flying that Fred and I did during the week. And you'll actually you got to listen. You got to listen because you'll hear it in a video clip that I have for you. You'll hear where the evolution of this content came from. You'll actually hear it in the video clip. And then of course the PilotJam. So kind of light week this week. Yeah, kind of light week. And no extra no airframes this week. So no airframe reviews, no maidens, none of that stuff. It was just out, just flying, just out having a good time, flying the stuff, and actually using the equipment and doing some skill development. So with that out of the way, that's the week in review. I think we can shut that down. I'm going to check comments, and we're gonna get into some content. I do have some content for you guys tonight. So let's see here. Hello from windy Arizona. How you doing, Rambo Flight Ken? Let's see, Bradley, we on likes and all. Yeah, you guys hit the like button. There's 26 people watching, only 11 likes. 27 watching, 11 likes. Hit the like button. Help a brother out. David Thorne, another one from Massachusetts. Taxachusetts up there. How about that? D. Griffith, sorry running late. Livingston, Texas. Fall Fun Fly. Nice. Fall Fun Fly. Yeah, there's a lot of that going around too. Okay. So I think I've got everything caught up in comments. You guys have had the week in review. Let's talk a little bit about practice. So practice. I was at the field today flying. I didn't have a camera guy there, and I only just went for a little bit. I just got an opportunity to squeak a couple packs in really early. So went and did that. And one of the things that it was on my mind was while I was flying, what I was working on was I had my Twisted Hobbies Edge 540, and I was working on not just knife edge flight, which I can pretty well do a knife edge at this point, but I was working on doing while you're in knife edge, doing a 360-degree roll and snapping perfectly back and stopping perfectly back on knife edge again, exactly where I left off, while maintaining altitude, while maintaining heading, and basically just doing these basic snap rolls. Not snap roll using a rudder. I don't want to confuse the issue. It's like a snap 360 on the longitudinal axis of the aircraft, and then stopping exactly where you started. And while I worked on that, I got a little frustrated because it was challenging to make it stop exactly the same every single time. And what kills me is I've watched some videos on YouTube, and I've seen it, firsthand with my own eyes, that people do this, right? It's a skill that some people have. And I thought about it, and I was talking to one of the guys at the field, and I said, you know what this comes down to? It just comes down to practice. And the idea behind practice, I've known this for a long time. There's a number out there that's thrown around from time to time, and it has to do with becoming an expert. And the idea is that if you do something for 10,000 hours, then you can consider yourself an expert. And that's to be fair, that's an arbitrary number. It's not like it's based on some scientific proof. And some people start at a higher level. Some people start at a lower level. Some people are naturally inclined. Some aren't. So I don't really want to get wrapped up in the mechanics of what determines when you're an expert. But what I did want to talk a little bit about was this idea of practice. And when I say practice, I don't mean taking an airplane or a helicopter or a quad or whatever it is you're doing and just going up and flying in circles, right? That's not going to get you there. What I'm talking about is if there's a maneuver you want to learn how to do, like a TikTok, you have to do it. And the simulators are great for developing the muscle memory. I believe that. I do believe that. I believe the simulators can teach you what you need to know in order to go out to the field and actually conduct the moves and make it happen. I do believe that part. But I also think that in order to actually become highly proficient with an actual model, you are going to have to go to the field. You're going to have to launch that model, and you're going to have to practice the maneuvers. And the reason I say that is because while I was trying to do these 360 knife edge rolls or whatever they're called, I got a little aggravated, and I thought, why am I having such a hard time with this? And then I stopped and thought about it, and I thought, the reality is it comes down to practice. I just haven't practiced enough. And I think what's funny, if I look back even a year ago, my flight skills have changed probably fairly dramatically, and even in the past year. So the moral of the story and the whole purpose of this little segment is when you get out there, you got to enjoy the hobby. And Fred and I have actually talked about this too. You have to enjoy the hobby. If you're always going out and trying to push the envelope and get better at what you're doing, then it can burn you out, right? But there also has to be a point where if you do want to improve your skills, you have to practice, and you have to practice doing the thing you're trying to improve. So that doesn't mean just flying a knife edge once and saying, well, I got it, and then start flying your loops and all the other stuff you do. You actually have to do the knife edge over and over and over and over and over and over. And that's what's going to make you proficient. And I think that's the moral of the story. So when you get out there, when you want to work on a skill, practice the skill itself. And yeah, sometimes you got to take a break and fly a loop or fly, do something else and kind of cool off for a minute, but you got to put in the time. And that's what it boils down to. So the reason, part of the reason I bring this up is because I've had people ask me, I've had it on both sides. I've had it on one side where people are like, holy cow, I can't believe how well you fly. How did you do that? And I say, well, it's practice. And then I also know that I can compare myself to people who have a higher level of skill than me. And when I look at them fly, the answer is practice. You got to do the stick time. So that's the comment to you guys is get out. Don't be afraid to get out there and do the stick time. When you see these guys that go out and they're highly proficient, they've put in the time, and that's the moral of the story. So yeah, like rolling circles. No, not like rolling circles. It's like you're flying a knife edge, and then you do a 360 degree. You hold the aileron, you do a 360 degree. So you start like this, and you do 360, and you end like that. So it's just doing a 360 degree, like a rifle roll from a tick-tock with your port wing up to a tick-tock with your, or not tick-tock, a knife edge with your port wing up to a knife edge with your port wing up after doing a 360. That's all. So it's almost like a rifle roll, but with a very discrete start and stop point. And it's just basically a 360 degree roll on the longitudinal axis. That's what I'm talking about. But the maneuver is less important than the concept of doing the time, right? That's the important message. So you got to get out there and do the time. That's the main thing to take away. All right, that's it on the yeah, and one last thing real quick. Again, it's not just go take off, fly around, do one knife edge and go, okay, that's practice, and then go start doing other stuff. That's not it. You got to repeat. You got to rinse and repeat until you really start narrowing it down. And I can tell you that having done that kind of work, I am narrowing it down. I am getting better at it. Like one thing I can do that I couldn't do a long time ago was I can actually do a Harrier roll. I can do it with I haven't tried it with the balsa planes yet, but I can do it with the Twisted Hobbies Edge and fairly low to the ground, like, maybe 15 feet off the ground. I can do a Harrier roll. Now it's not pretty. It's not perfectly straight, but compared to where I was a year ago, that wasn't even a possibility, so now it's a possibility because I keep going out there and I keep practicing those Harrier rolls. I keep putting in the time. So that's it on the practice thing. Let's move on. I don't see any comments, so I don't see anything I have to address here. All right, next one was the PJ flight. I got a little special thing for you guys. I hope you enjoy this. Just a little, I did this because I knew I wasn't going to do a production video this week. I didn't really have anything planned production-wise for a production video. So we just did a little impromptu thing, thought we'd share with you. So here it is, little surprise flying for you, just on the PilotJam.
All right, here we go. All right, boys. Everybody in the PilotJam, we got a little treat for you. Yakety yak, don't talk back. Today is the first day we got the yak on the old 3S, and I'm loving it. Although we're getting a little less flight time, a lot more power.
That's not bad for a heli pilot.
Yeah, well, the skills kind of translate. Not to mention, I got a lot less spare with these because we had a crash last time. This is my first day back after the crash. Like John pointed out, the repair costed me absolutely nothing.
Just some consumables, right?
Yep.
That's the nice thing about these foamies, man. You can go out and fly with impunity. And even if you do crash, it's cheap repair, man. They're really good. And these Twisted Hobby planes, they fly pretty straight for foamies. It's because they're rigid where it counts. Oh,
That was a close one.
that was close. He's trying to lose me. He lost me.
I successfully lost.
He successfully lost me. I
Let's
gotta
try.
back
What's
away.
that one we were working on there? Knife edge spin.
All right.
That
Yeah.
was a sloppy one.
Oh, that counts. That was a knife edge spin. Do
This
it
is my
again.
new trick. I haven't done it too many times. Got a little wind going. I don't know what that was.
You guys airsick yet? You better have a constitution to go for this ride.
Oh, we already got, oh, we're done.
You're done.
Oh man, I just lost power, man. I got low battery and the power went out.
All right.
Let's go check it out. My prop might have came dislodged. So let's see what happened. Oh, 9.75.
Uh-oh.
I think we're gonna have to adjust the
Were you charged all the way up, Fred?
Here.
9.75.
Yeah, we ran out of battery quick on that one. 3 minutes, 9 seconds.
Well, that's it. Hope you guys enjoyed our little flight. We just want to do something to goof off for the Pilot Jam for you, because I didn't do any flight production videos this week.
We've been messing with the telemetry, trying to get maximum flight time out of this, and I think we just went a little overboard this time. 9.65 we're at. 2 minutes and 22 seconds.
Were you fully charged up? Did you check before you flew that you were fully charged up?
Yeah, it was charged. I think I was on it a little rough that go round. The whole flight I did not come below 3/4 throttle. Yeah, dude, I wiped this battery down. 9.65, what the hell's that at? Ooh, 325-294-309. All right, here we go. All right, boys.
All right, that was our little fun time to go out and just mess around with the Yak and give you guys something to watch for flight video this week, because I didn't do anything production wise. But one thing to take away from that was the conversation we had at the end of the video, where I asked the questions about, are you sure you were fully charged? Now, Fred says he was, and he knows what he's doing, so I'll assume that he was. But that got me thinking. I said, when after I landed the quad and we got back onto the pavilion and we talked a little bit, I said, I kind of think that maybe the radio should be able to help us out with that. And that's what prompted the next video. And the next video was writing the logic to get the radio basically to do a voltage check for us to make sure before we fly that we have the voltage that we think we're supposed to have. So if you program that in, you know, and take that little bit of extra step, that'll help ensure that when you go flying, you're not going to have a scenario where you actually put a somewhat discharged battery in a plane and go fly it. So that's really what that was about. And that's why I thought I would share that little video with you guys and give you a little insight as to how some of these topics come up from time to time. And Fred says the 3S is much better in my opinion. Yeah, Fred's all about the power, man. He likes the power. The little yak with the 3S battery is kind of funny. Little tiny batteries, but yeah, he got it flying. And a lot more power. I think he was doing some of his better knife edge work, spinning knife edge spins with the 3S battery too, right? So it was a good flight. Fred's really coming along, and we have a little bit of fun, but yeah, not bad for a helicopter pilot. But you know, he's only been flying like that for just a few months, and he's already really advancing on his skills, and it's because he practices. He goes into the sim, and then after he gets some sim time, he goes out to the field and tries his new stuff at the field. So he spends his time practicing for sure. All right, so that's it for the PJ flight. I thought that was just something a little fun to do. Next up, I actually have some content. Well, it's all been content, but I have a kind of like a little tech thing for you guys to cover. And the tech thing is calibration tips. So what I thought I would do, the reason I did this is because I had just, again, Fred and I were talking at the field about calibration, and I made a comment about how impressed I've been with this little iCharger X6, because from a calibration and accuracy perspective, I've really just been impressed with these devices. I think so far they've been very, very good. I check on them from time to time, and I've just been really impressed. But it got me talking, because it got me thinking about it, because Fred's one of his chargers, he was having some calibration issues, and we talked about ways that you can calibrate things. And I thought I would share with you guys, because I actually do calibrate stuff all the time. I thought I would give you a couple of different calibration tips for your own use. And one of the things that I want to talk about first is the idea of the parallel board. So the way this setup works, this link right here, this is going to my desktop power supply. Okay, so that's the input. And then right here, this is just a parallel board connected to the iCharger. So it's just an input connected to the iCharger. I'm going to bring that brightness down just a little bit more, because I want to make sure you guys see the screen. So the parallel board, the reason for that is because that gives us some flexibility while we're conducting calibration tasks. Okay, so I'll show you why in just a minute. But definitely get one of these. They're very, very helpful for what I'm about to show you. Okay, so we've got a parallel board, we've got our iCharger, and this is just a battery. A lot of the devices will tell you what your reference voltage should be. And then one other thing that I know some people have this real opinion about when you calibrate, whether or not you should be under load. And all I can tell you is that I have done it both ways, and I cannot find a difference. So I know people are religious about these things, and that's fine. If you think it should be done under load, then go ahead and do it under load. Okay, it's fine. I'm not going to argue about it. But in my case, I haven't really found a reason to do it. It doesn't seem to matter at the end of the day. So the next thing I want to do is show you the little ISDT B8. It's a BG8S. This is just a battery checker. Here's where the parallel board can come in handy. All I've done is take a 6X extension, and I'm just going to plug it in. So I'll just plug that in right here. So now I've got my battery checker that I use at the field. And of course I got to set that brightness down too, because it's blowing out the camera on you guys. So backlight, we'll just set that to low. There we go. Now I think you guys can see. And the next thing we have to do, because for some reason, ISDT likes to hide their calibration stuff. So in order to calibrate, and by the way, for anyone that's a manufacturer, anyone that has the manufacturer's ear, stop doing this. It's our device. Stop making it hard for us to calibrate the damn things. Just stop. Look how easy it is on an iCharger. On an iCharger from the main menu, I just hold the little rocker down. I go down to this button right there that says calibration. And when I'm in there, I can choose the manufacturer's calibration if I want, or mine, which is fine. That's cool. I like that. And then I go under channel calibration and I'm in. So very simple. It's like 3 or 4 clicks, you're in. But for some reason, ISDT, you have to have a secret decoder ring, a Harry Potter magic wand, and the Enchanto spell in order to crack into this damn thing so you can calibrate the thing that you paid for. So what I would say to the manufacturers and the firmware developers, just stop. If we want to calibrate it, leave us calibrate it. Okay. But anyway, to do it on this device, and I'll show you what a pain in the neck it is. You have to press system information, and from this screen, you have to long press for about 3 seconds and then let go, and then do it again, and then let go, and do it again, and then let go. And now you're in the secret cool kid menu where you can go into calibration, and now they're going to hit you again. And you got to put in this ridiculous input unlock key, which is just, it's ridiculous. This kind of thing I'll tell you what, it's the kind of thing that makes me think about, as soon as I find a better option, better device, I'm going to get one, because this kind of thing annoys me. I just don't like being held out. It's mine. If I want to calibrate it, let me calibrate it. Stop messing with me. But anyway, you have to go through and put in this ridiculous key. So there's the key. Oops, that one's 0. And let's see, F. Sorry about this, but this is just the way it works, guys. You want to see it, you got to take the time to unlock the darn thing. So there we go. Almost there. I missed something. It's FED 4D C3. Okay. 4D and then C3. C3. And then once you do that, you long press, and now you can finally calibrate your device. Okay. So here we go. I want to show you the trick that I use. Several tricks that I use. The first one is that if you put these devices on a balance board together, you can calibrate them at the same time to make sure that they're both kind of giving you the same result. I was going to show you my Kaiweets KM601 meter. This is another multimeter that I have, and I have a link for this in the description. This one's okay. I mean, it's decently accurate, maybe to the 10th place, maybe to the 100th place, but it's just simply not as good as my Fluke. So when it comes to calibrating, when I'm looking for voltage numbers down into the thousands, I prefer the Fluke. So it's really important to have a very good meter in order to calibrate. You got to have one that you trust. And one other comment for you calibration nerds out there, I don't care. It's good enough for what we're doing. There are calibration nerds out there who say, well, unless you send it to a NIST certified fabrication shop with atomic scales, then you're still not accurate. Yeah, I know. It's fine. It's fine. We're only looking for maybe the tenths to 100ths. That's about the best you're going to get on this stuff, right? Okay, so our setup, we've got our battery plugged in. We've got our cell checker plugged into the parallel board. We've got our parallel board plugged into the iCharger. Now what I want to show you is the leads. So these are just test leads. You can buy this stuff on Amazon. They're on Amazon. You can buy a test lead set that have the little alligator clips. And what I want to show you real quick on these is they're just cables that I made out of one of my kits that I bought. I did actually put a link for this kit in the description. So these are the wires that come in the kit. These are GH 1.25 to DuPont 2.54. So the DuPont 2.54 are these guys. These are standard like servo connector receptacles that you're used to seeing in all your servos. And then you get inside the case, they have these nice little DuPont connectors where you can do 1P, 2P, 3P, 4P, 6P. So in my case, I just used a 2P because all I'm looking for here is positive and negative. So this little kit, it's like 20 bucks and it's got so many different uses. There's a link in the description. It's an affiliate link. So if you use it, the channel gets a little kickback, but these are really handy to have because you can make little test cables just like this. Just like that. Simple little test cable. I made this one. And now what this allows me to do is put my test cable on the balance board, and I just put it on any of these receptacles like that, and we get a reading on the meter. So there's 4.16. Now I can just take my time and look at my devices and see how we're doing. So in the case of the iCharger that we're on the first cell, we're at 4.16. That actually looks good. And then on the I keep forgetting the numerical designator, the BG8S. So on the BATGO, we're at 4.15. By the way, this was recently calibrated. So we're at 4.15. We need to be at 4.16. So there you go. This is one of the reasons I like that device, because that's been calibrated. And look, it's holding the value. This was recently calibrated, and I had to make an adjustment. It's kind of annoying, but that's what we're left with. It's just what we're left with. Okay, the next one is cell number 2. So all we do is we take our little connector on the parallel board and just move it over 1 pin. Just like that. So all I did was move it over 1 pin, and there's our reading on our multimeter, 4.17. And you can see on the iCharger, it's 4.168. So that's really close. Like that's really, we're 0.02 off. So I'll go ahead and just bump it up just to, you know, for accuracy's sake, but very, very close on this one. So there's 4.17, and then we can look at this one and we see 4.168. We can bring that up to 4.17 as well. And there we go. So that's the process. You just basically keep going. And when we get to the end, I'll do cell number 3. We're at 4.17 again. I'll go ahead and make that adjustment on the iCharger. There we go, 4.17. And then we'll make the adjustment on the BG8S. See, I can't remember it. Okay, that's cell number 3. And then cell number 4 is also 4.17. So this one actually looks like it needs to come up a little bit. This is where the guys who say it needs to be under load are going to come out of the woodwork, and they're going to see, I told you it had to be under load. I don't think it really matters that much. We're talking about 2/1000ths of a volt. So it doesn't, I'm just doing it to show you guys how to do it. That's all. Okay. And then let's see, that was number 4. So on this one, we're at 4.16. So we just need to bring that up just a little bit. And then number 5, and some people might say I calibrate at the bottom of the discharge curve, which would be smart. I would actually understand, because doing it at the bottom of the curve, that's more important, I think, than the top, because you're really concerned at the bottom that you don't lose your power like Freddie was seeing at the field with his yak. Okay, so we'll move this guy over one more time. That's number 5, and we're at 4.17 again. So I will just bump that up just a little bit. 4.17. And then this one needs to come up quite a bit. This one's quite a bit low. So 4.17. And then we can do number 6. I know another thing some people say is resistance, but I really don't think there's much, like these are very short lengths of wire. So I really don't think resistance is going to be too much of a factor here. So 4.17, this is number 6, right? So we need to bring this one up again, 4.164. We'll bring that up to 4.17. And then we'll bring this one, cell number 6, we'll bring that up to 4.17. Oops, wrong way. There we go, 4.17. And then there's one last thing you can do, and that's the input voltage. On the iCharger, the output voltage is listed here. And on this one, it's the input voltage. So in order to do input voltage, that's the input voltage that you plug into the mains. So I have a Y cable. You just plug a Y cable in. I'm using a Y. You could use a standard XT60 female to female if you have one, but a Y cable works. So I have that. I'll plug that in on the cell checker, and then I'll just find an open spot on the parallel board and plug it in there. And now you can see I've actually got input voltage at 25.001, and that's actually fluctuating a little bit. And on the iCharger, I see 24.990. Now all I need to do is take my leads. We'll just disconnect those, and we'll drop them right here on another open port on the XT60s on the parallel board, just like that. And we can see 24.99 on the meter, and I'm seeing 24.989. So I'll bring that up just a little bit. I'll bring that up just a touch on the iCharger. It's a very, very small amount here. So 24.99. There we go. That's that one. And on the BG8S, we'll just bring that down just a little bit, one click, and there we go. So that's the input voltage for both of them. And now on the BG8S, we can exit. We'll hit back. And then on the iCharger, you have to hit save. So I'll scroll down now and we'll hit save. And then we have one other thing we can do, and that's the other variables calibration. I haven't done current calibration yet. I might. I've actually got a current meter. I'll have to do that some other time and see how it works out. I'm not going to experiment on camera. I'll save you that indignity. But input voltage right there, it's saying 22.94. All I need to do here is just take my leads, and I'm going to put them on my power supply. So all we're doing is we're checking the power supply input voltage. And I see 22.93 and I see 22.93 on the iCharger. So that looks accurate to me. And that's that. So that's the calibration. And again, I did that to give you guys an idea of some tools you can use to make your life a little bit easier. Now, the nice thing about that is if the quality of these devices is reasonably good, then what'll happen is you'll have agreement. And that's why I do it this way, because I want to see agreement between these two devices when I'm looking at my batteries. I want them both to evaluate the battery the same. And as you can see, if we go from the top down, we're 4.155, 4.156, 157. That's close. I mean, you're again, 2000s, that's fine. 4.167, 4.167, 4.167, 4.168, 4.167, 4.167. We're good there. 4.168, 4.169, 4.168, 4.167. So that's accurate. Now my iCharger and my cell checker both agree on the voltage for the battery. And that's really what I'm after. That's what I want to see. And I've measured that against a known working, reasonably good quality multimeter that actually has good reputation for accuracy. That's why they're so expensive, by the way, very expensive. Is the iCharger more reliable than the ISDT? I would say absolutely yes. I think the iCharger has been much more accurate, much more accurate than pretty much any of the other consumer grade electronics I've had. I have become a huge fan of this little iCharger X6. I mean, big fan of that device. It's got a high balance port charge and discharge rate up to, I think, 2 amps per cell. I think this one might be 1 amp, but in any event, it's pretty quick and highly, highly accurate. When I pull these off and measure them, in fact, I posted a picture today in Discord where I took a battery off the charger and it was 420202020. It was really good. I'm a big fan of this iCharger. Okay, so that's it on that part. I do have one other little calibration I want to show you guys. Just since we're talking about calibration, I thought this would be a good little thing to show you in case you've never seen it before. Again, the link for this little kit. I love this kit because you can make all kinds of neat stuff with it. It's good for making cables if you have the Radiomaster Express LRS UART-based receivers. So if you want to make a UART pin, that's where I initially got this. That works on the UART port on the ER6 and ER8 and the glider receivers with the UART port. These work. And you can also make little balance test leads to balance and calibrate your stuff. Okay, so that's that one. I have one other thing that I wanted to show you in terms of calibration. If you haven't done it yet, and it's a good idea to do it, I recommend it. And that's your not your flight battery. It's your radio battery. So here's our handy dandy TX16S and running EdgeTX. And all I'm going to do here is go to my system menu and hit page left. And you can see there is a battery calibration option right there. It says 8.11 volts and the range 8.3. I'm going to explain that in just a minute. That's a new thing I just started doing. So what I'll do here is I'm going to bring my fluke in, and all I've got is I've got the main leads off of my battery for the radio. Okay. So we're just going to plug in there, plug in here and here. And on the fluke, you can see 8.09, and on the radio, it's showing me 8.11. So we need to calibrate that by clicking on it and bringing it down just a little bit right there. So 2 clicks. Now our battery is calibrated correctly. And now this says 0.08, and this is still reading 0.09. So one more adjustment. There we go. So our battery calibration here is calibrated to our meter. Now we know we're getting an actual accurate reading on our transmitter. And as you can imagine, that's a super important voltage to have right. So if you haven't checked it, check it, right? Get a meter, even if you don't have a fluke. Just get the best meter you can. In fact, I'll show you. Let's do the Kaiweets. Let's see how far off it is. The fluke is 8.08, right? So let's bring the Kaiweets in. And again, I think for, generic stuff where you're not focused on that low resolution, the Kaiweets is fine. But if you're trying to be very accurate down to the, thousandths, then. So there you go. That's 8.08. That rounds up, right? 8.08. There it is. There's 8.08. So we're within 10, 100, 1,000th of a volt. So it's fine. It's not bad. Although I do kind of trust the fluke a little bit more for sensitive stuff, but it's fine. I think for this purpose, it's fine. So there you go. Make sure you calibrate your flight battery on your Radiomaster TX16S and your Zorro and any other radios you've had where you can do a battery calibration, because you need that. You want that to be right. You don't want that to be wrong. Lonnie wants to know what the cost of that one. The fluke, I don't know, man. I got the fluke a long time ago, and it was a gift from a friend. It was a good friend of mine, obviously, and he treated me to that, and I've had it ever since. And I know when I've looked at them on Amazon, they're not cheap. But I think if you're looking to do, if you're not going to get into lab grade gear, right, the lab grade certified stuff, if you're not getting into that, I think a fluke is probably a pretty good option for most electronics benches. So good idea. The Fluke 18 is $130. Yeah, that makes sense. But they're good. They're they have a reputation. Like if you go out and Google, do a little research on Fluke meters, you're going to find out that they're highly regarded devices. That's for darn sure. Okay, so make sure you do your battery calibration. I told you I would explain this in just a minute. Here's my thought on this battery range. Obviously, 8.4 is a number, right? It's because it's a 2-cell battery, and 4.2 plus 4.2 is 8.4. So you might say, John, why is your range 8.3? And the reason that I do that is because I have a battery meter. I had to get my pointer. Shut up. Okay. So here's my battery gauge right up here, and there's the meter. What I was realizing was that when I used 8.4 as the peak, what happened was within 5 seconds of putting the battery in, I saw the first tick mark go away, and I was getting annoyed. Like, man, why is it that this is a brand new battery? It's been freshly charged out of the radio. Like I put the battery on the iCharger, right? I put it on the iCharger and I charge it up, and it's 8.4 volts. And immediately, as soon as I plug it in and turn it on, I lose 1 bar. And I realize it's because you tell the meter what the range is, and you say the range is 8.4. So if you do that, the second it drops below 8.4, it takes one of your slices away. And that was annoying me. My OCD kicked in and got the better of me. And I thought, I don't like this. I want to change that. How can I do it? So I lowered my peak just 1 notch. And that way, the white bars stay there for at least a little while. I mean, you guys all have cell phones, right? Is anybody else like always making sure that battery meter is like closer to the closer to the top than the bottom? I know running around with it peaked all the time is not as good for the battery. I know that. I'm aware of that, but I don't know. OCD. Oh, hey, one other thing I thought I'd point out too. This is kind of a funny story, actually. I have a couple of different batteries. This is the Radiomaster 6200 LiPo for the TX16S, and they ship it with an XT30. And one of the problems I have with that is that every single time I wanted to take it out of the radio to charge it, I had to go fumble around looking for an XT30 to XT60 adapter. And I was annoyed. So I ended up at one point, I actually took this out and put it on the shelf and just used the Raceday Quad 5000s. And then I thought about it for a minute, and I actually did a discharge test. And this one is actually 25% bigger or 20% bigger. It actually measured out correctly. So I thought, well, wait a minute, I'm leaving capacity sitting on the bench at home. Why do that? So then I had the brainiac brainstorm idea of saying, I could just cut that stupid XT30 off. So yeah, this is one of those V8 moments you have. Like, why it took me literally 4 minutes to make this change. So I cut the XT30 off, put an XT60 on, and now I'm a much happier camper because I have a 6200 milliamp hour battery back in my flight radio. So I felt kind of stupid when I figured that out. Like, yeah, that wasn't. I've had slow moments in my life, but that one was impressive. We need to get something out here in front so you guys can. I'll bring the Kaiweets out. That's kind of a neat little one. Yeah, I have the Hills have FPV. Says I look at my assortment of XT30 adapters. I do too. I have the adapters. That was never the problem. The problem was always hunting one down instead of just plugging it in. Plugging it in and charging. I hate, if I can avoid looking for an adapter, I would. There's a good DVM oscilloscope handheld for sub 100 now. Ooh, you can't put a link in. Shoot me an email it's john@rcvideoreviews.com. I've been thinking about an oscilloscope too, like a good lab grade bench power supply kind of meter. I've been thinking about it. I really have been thinking about that. Just to see how accurate these devices can be. So. Okay, that's it on the calibration stuff. I don't really see any other comments. You guys are pricing flukes. Good for you. Go get a fluke if you can manage it. They've got a good rep. So if you don't have lab gear, the fluke is a pretty good option. Okay, next up is Q&A. So I'm going to turn this off. I'm just sitting here wasting a battery, and that one's not rechargeable. All right, Q&A. Let's see here. In case you haven't heard this before, Q&A, the idea is that when I get comments in the videos on YouTube during the course of a week, I look for common themes or concepts that might be interesting to more than one person. So if I see a question that I think might be broadly applicable, then I make an effort to try and capture it for Q&A. So Sully says, okay, 5 minutes. So the first question we have today is from Winston Smith, 1984, giving up his age there. I wish EdgeTX would support custom labels for logic switches, because after adding logic for multiple things, each consisting of multiple switches, one starts to lose oversight. And I think he's actually right. I've actually thought about that myself. It would be nice to have groups of logical switches where you can say maybe a logical switch group, and you can go into the group and edit your switches. That would be very interesting to me. And then you could do things like, you could number your logical switches like, G11 or G12 or G13 for group 1. I think that would be kind of cool. But the bigger point in Winston's comment is that if you see something like this that you think would matter, you really need to go to the EdgeTX GitHub under the issues tracker and open a feature request. Just ask them, because they are a very community-driven organization. That's why. So you should really take the time. If you have a good idea, go ask for the feature request, and you'll be surprised. These guys are very receptive. They do tease things out a little bit. They will say, hey, you need to, this isn't good for the core of the firmware, or we're going to be changing, the way things operate, so this isn't going to be viable, or whatever. They will stress test things a little bit. But if they think that you have an idea that would be largely positive for the community, they'll actually mess around with it. So that's my answer to Winston, is make sure you go into the GitHub, the EdgeTX GitHub under issues, and look for a feature request. You go into the issues section and create a feature request and say, hey, is there any way you could group logical switches or give us labels for logical switches so we can group things together? I actually think that's really a good idea. All right. So I just realized I started with question number 5, so I got to go back to 1. Otherwise I'll lose track. All right. Next up is Little Meister 44. Hi, John, or anyone that can help. I'm trying to flash firmware ER6G via beta FPV dongle, but I can't find anywhere online or in the manuals which tells me which channels the signal pins. I'm going to give you guys a mnemonic for this. And the mnemonic is that when you think of the Express LRS receivers, any of the PWM receivers, so you got PWM pins, the mnemonic is 2 toddler. 2 toddler. The reason I remember that is because I remember when I had 5 kids, and I remember growing up, I don't know why, but I'd hear my wife talking about clothes for the kids on the phone with her girlfriends, my older kids, whatever. And I can't even tell you how many times I heard that woman say 2 toddler, 2 toddler, 2T, 2T, 2T. I always think 2 toddler. The reason I think 2 toddler is because pin 2 is the transmit pin, and that goes to RX on your dongle. So 2 toddler, right? And then pin 3 is the other one. So you don't have to remember pin 3. It's just always pin 2. Now keep in mind that's if you don't have a UART, right? If you have a UART like the Radio Master ER6 and ER8, then you use the UART. But if you don't have a UART, one second, let me get a receiver out and I'll show you. Here we go. I just had to grab a receiver and we'll go to the overhead camera and I'll give you a look at it. So the pins on this one, that's pin number 1 right there. I see the number 1. So that's 1, 2. So that's number 1 right here. Let me get my pointer. I have my pointer handy this time. So there's pin number 1. That's pin number 2. So if you want to go to your dongle, you go to the signal pin number 2, 2 toddler. That's your transmit pin. This end right here goes to the RX port on your dongle. Okay. So just remember 2 toddler. That's all you got to remember. 2T, 2T. All right. So that's a good question. And I used to, until I put that mnemonic together, I used to go look it up every single time. Then I just did the mnemonic and now I remember every single time. So let's see. Can the Hills have FPV? EV blogs, multimeters are good too, but expensive. I'll have to check those. I've seen him. I've seen his channel. He's got a good channel. I like his channel. Rambo Flight Ken says widget settings should identify in the header which widget it is too. Yes, I agree. I think that'd be good too. See, these are feature requests you can make. Lonnie says, do you know if Radio Master is bringing receivers with more than 8 PWM outputs? I cannot confirm or deny. I know that I'm working on a receiver with more than 8 PWM outputs. So that I know. I can tell you that, and it will be Express LRS based, but I don't know what Radio Master is doing. Cannot confirm or deny. All right, that's it on the questions so far. So let's get back to our Q&A. Weezob 4569, he says, I have a Zod Copilot and I'm going to couple it with a Radio Master PWM ELRS ER8 GV and a Radio Master Pocket, and I need channel 5 is my 3-position switch. I hope the Express LRS guys are listening. So, for quads, channel 5 is never a thing, but for fixed wing guys, it's a mess. So even though we've explained this so many times, I intend on using S-Bus to connect to the receiver. That's the key right there. S-Bus on the receiver to the Copilot. That's the key. You have to stop right there. You cannot remap channels in a serial stream today. What that means is if your radio sends channels 1 through 16 and the output decoder on the receiver is S-Bus, they will come out in that order 1 through 16. You cannot remap them. The PWM decoder does allow for remapping. Oh, by the way, when I say serial, that also includes CRSF. So CRSF and S-Bus, you cannot, as of today, I think they're kind of talking about making a change, but as of today, 330, you cannot remap channels inside a serial stream. That includes S-Bus and CRSF. However, you can remap them on a PWM decoder. So if you are outputting PWM, you can remap that. You can say pin number 5, the PWM pin number 5 is no longer channel number 5. I want you to listen to channel 13 coming from the radio. So when you do that, you're assigning the radio's channel 13 to go out or egress via PWM on pin number 5. Okay, you cannot remap inside a serial stream as of today. All right, the Hills Ave FPV says, am I wrong for wanting to use connectors rather than hard solder everything in the wing build? Yeah, well, I mean, technically, if you want it, the purists are going to say, yeah, every connector you have adds resistance and it's a point of failure. When you solder, you still have resistance, but it's lower and it's not as much of a point of failure. So, but you know what? You, man. Don't worry too much about that stuff. Jason Larawan says, I'm planning to build a slope soaring helicopter. Slope soaring helicopter. Okay. Do you have any suggestions on how to go at it? No, absolutely none. I am absolutely useless when it comes to slope soaring helicopters. Freddie might know something about it. I don't. Hobie came back. Welcome back, Shane. Glad you can make it. All right. So Weezob, if you're using a serial protocol, you do not remap. Now, in order to make it work with a Copilot, I've covered this before. set your packet rate to 333 hertz, set your channel count to 16 divided by 2. That means you get 16 fully proportional channels, 1 through 16. Channel 5 will still be the arming sequence on the transmitter. It doesn't matter to the receiver. The receiver will see 16 fully proportional channels, and you can send them whatever you want, including a mode switch. So that's always been my recommendation until this channel 5 thing goes away and dies, however they plan for it to die. That's the recommendation that I make. That's my recommendation. I own it. And when I say I own it, all I'm trying to do is take responsibility. I'm not trying to say I invented the internet. All I'm trying to say is that when I say that, I'm owning it. Meaning my suggestion, because I've tested it so much, is just 333 hertz, 16 divided by 2, 16 fully proportional channels. Use dynamic power if you want. Turn it off if you want. It really doesn't matter. Okay, so that's that. All right, Anthony and Dorsey. Anthony and Dorsey. He says, thank you for this. Question, why did you use SB up rather than XXXXX or whatever? Let me show you guys what he's talking about. So I frequently use this concept that I call defensive programming on the radio. And when I use a negative SB, for example, in this use case that he's talking about, what the exclamation means is not. So if I have exclamation SB, what I'm trying to say is that in that scenario, it's not SB. So I've got the radio. I had to put the battery back in. Let me bring a camera online, and I will show you guys what I'm talking about. So we look at the overhead camera, and we go into the model configuration that I have, and we look at our inputs. Here you go. In this case, I always use my rates here. That's where my rates are, always here. They've always been there. That's where they're always going to be. Now, my problem is that this is a 3-position switch. So as a 3-position switch, the issue is that if I don't want a mid rate, I just want low and high, what do I do about that middle position? And that's where the not comes into play. So you can see that the first input, the first rate is SB up, and the expo is 65%. Okay, so I'll put the switch up, and I am now SB up, and my expo is 65%. You can see that's the one that's highlighted, okay? Now, the next line says when it's exclamation SB up. What that means is when this switch is not in the up position, meaning when it's either here or here, that line should be highlighted. That's what I mean by defensive programming. That doesn't allow room for error. What that says is this is either SB up is either true, or if SB is not up, any other condition of this switch, this line should be active. And that's basically all I'm doing is I'm turning a 3-position switch into a 2-position switch without having a mistake. Like if I just said I'll just do it. I got to be really careful to put this back though, because this is a production plane. So if I did SB down, for example, now what happens is if I'm SB down, I'm active. If I'm SB middle, nothing is active, which means I lose my ailerons. They're gone, okay? And then I have to put this in the up position to get the high rates activated again. And that's what I mean by defensive programming. My programming, the way I set it up, means that there is no way that I can put this switch in a position which will cause me to lose my ailerons. That's why I use not SB up. So we'll go back in. I have to switch that back because I do not want to forget to do that. Would be really bad. This is the 85-inch. This is the 85-inch extra NG too. That'd be really bad. Okay, so there we go. Not SB up. That means when I'm in the mid or down position. Now I could do SB down, but I just showed you what happens if I do that. And you could do SB down and not SB down. That would be the same thing, but then this position would be active if you were in the middle switch or the high switch. So that's a way to kind of change the behavior a little bit, okay? So in my case, high rates are up. Anything else is low rates. That's it. All right, so that's the answer to that question, and that's why I do that. The exclamation can be very useful in programming logic on the TX16S in EdgeTX. All right, let's see. Yoon Kenneth says, definitely see you are frustrated. I just want to order this. I just wanted to order this. Luckily have this clips. He saw the video. I should find another small charger. Thanks. He's talking about the B6 Neos, and my response to him was go get an iCharger X6. Right now, that is my flavor of the month when it comes to compact chargers. So far, I haven't found a single problem with these things. I just love them. So the iCharger X6, no brainer for me. Light years ahead of the B6 Neo. They do cost a little bit of money. You'll spend a little bit. And by the way, I have not heard back yet from SkyRC. They contacted me several weeks ago, a couple months ago at this point. They said, hey, we take this seriously. What can we do? You know, and I said, well, let's talk. What do you guys want to do? Let's see if we can figure it out. And I haven't heard back from them. So it's all on them right now. And frankly, I'm standing by it. You guys have heard me saying this for weeks right now. You talk to somebody that's getting a B6 Neo, tell them not to do it. It's a waste of money. I'd rather have one iCharger X6 than 5 B6 Neos. All right, this question we already answered. This is from Winston, so you answer that. I'm going to skip it. Question number 6. I am most wanted 777. My Boxer didn't have the RSSI and RX bad option. Is there something I missed? Yes, you got it. When I do these videos, there are certain assumptions I make, and if I don't make some assumptions, then these videos are all going to get really, really long. But what he's talking about here is that when I make my videos, I rely on telemetry. So if you see me using a telemetry sensor in a video, you have to pull the sensors in, and your sensors may be a little different than mine. If you're using Express LRS, they should look just like mine do. But if you're using a different protocol, some other to be nameless protocol, you have to figure out what your sensors are and how to get them on your radio. Okay. So that's the deal. I don't necessarily on every video show how to do telemetry. So if you're watching a video and you don't see a sensor that I'm using, a telemetry sensor, you got to figure that out and figure out which one of your sensors is the appropriate one to use. So let's see. Have I ever crashed a plane due to settings you mucked up on a stream? I'll have to think about that. I don't think so, because generally I'm not in a actual model for testing. I actually go into this little category that I have called testing. And I'll bring the overhead camera back up so you can see it. And in this category, I just put a bunch of stuff that I test, and I always use the EdgeTX logo, which means don't fly. These are no-fly planes. That's where I normally do the demos. So that's why I don't really do it. This one, I don't know why I had the big planes selected today. I just did. That was the last thing I had out. Okay, let's see. Back to the blackboard, and let's see. They beat the air into submission. The props. Oh, we're talking about helicopters. So more power. Okay, that's it on questions. Say anything on the live stream questions I need to answer, so we'll keep moving. Number 7, Raphael Genel. Okay, this is an interesting one. So this guy comes in after I did the video on the squid stick, and he goes, hey, by the way, you can press the back button and the Lua will keep the Bluetooth running. And I thought the man was crazy at first because I've actually tried this before, and every single time I left the Lua, the radio shut off the Bluetooth, and I thought, he's crazy. But I went and read what he said, and he says all you do is enable Bluetooth, and then just press and hold the back button. That's different. So let me show you what we're talking about here. I'm going to bring up the workspace for this one, and I need the overhead camera so you guys can see the radio. And what I'm going to do is I will pick a test model this time because I don't like messing around with my production planes. So we'll just do Scratchpad. Actually, I think Scratchpad's a really bad example because I think they're all on aileron. Let me grab something else. 1 second. I'm just looking for one. Pre-arm. That's a good one. Pre-arm voltage. We'll do that. Okay, so in pre-arm voltage, I'm going to bring up my mixer and show you the mixer. So I have AETR. I think that's all I have, but that's enough to show you what I need to show you. So I'm going to press the system button, go into Express LRS, and then on my Windows computer, your computer may be different, but on Windows, I just typed, I clicked on the start button and clicked on or typed the word Bluetooth. Okay, and that brought up this little Bluetooth and devices box. You can see right here I've got ELRS joystick. All right, so here's the deal. if we scroll down to Bluetooth, BLE joystick, and click on that, you see we get this little guy that pops up. And then you can see right here, I have Express LRS joystick connected. Now the next thing I'm going to do is hit the start button again and type the word joy. And that brings up this little controller box. And I can click on, this is the gamepad. I have my squid stick plugged in. I forgot about that. No, there it's unplugged. Okay, now when I hit properties, I'm going to move my sticks on the radio, and let me try this again. Let me try it again. That should have worked pretty much instantly. There we go. Okay, so now you can see as I move my stick, you see the, this is in the wrong spot. There you go. I'll move the stick and you can see the little crosshair moving, okay? All right, so here's the deal. If you hit this return to exit, if you press this button and you move your joystick, it's gone. It stops working. That was my frame of reference, right? I'm like, well, if I hit the return button, then it errors out. You know, I lose my joystick and I get this little message that pops up, and that's what I'm left with. So that's not cool, right? I was kind of bummed about that. Now, if I click on Bluetooth joystick again, and that comes up, you guys can see it just connected and populated in this field right here. Now I'll hit properties and I'll move my radio stick again. Oops, there we go. I'll move my radio stick again. You can see the crosshairs moving. Now check this out. This is what Raphael Genel said. He's like, press and hold the back button. So if I press and hold return, now watch. I move my stick, you can see the crosshair is still moving and I'm out of the Lua. So if I back out now, this was my main beef with Bluetooth before, is that if I wanted to make a change on the radio, I couldn't do that. But now it's still, obviously it's still got Bluetooth active on the radio. So thanks to Raphael Genel for pointing this out. I did not know that. I simply read what the screen said. The screen said, press return to exit. So I thought the only way to get out of this, I never held the button down. I tried page right. That doesn't do anything. I tried page left. That doesn't do anything. I hit telemetry. That doesn't do anything. I hit return. That shuts down my Bluetooth connection. Now my joystick doesn't work. So apparently this is a thing. I didn't know about this when I made the video, but if you have your joystick activated, you'll see it connect. It's right there. It just turned green and it pops up right here. We hit properties. There's the window. You can see the little crosshair moving, right? It's moving right there. I've got that. Now I'll come over here and long press the return button and the crosshair still moves. So there you go. There's Bluetooth with that allows you to get back in the radio. That was my one beef against the Bluetooth setup, right? And you also have to navigate to it and turn it on, but so what? You know, it just takes a few seconds. So that's a nitpick more than anything else, but you can't, you know, it's not like something the Express LRS guys can fix. That's just the way the radio works. But anyway, that's it. And then from there, you can exit out, you can click model, and you can go in and make changes to your stuff. And if you lower your, you know, there's negative 500%. If you lower your ailerons and, you know, monkey around with your settings, it all gets applied in the Windows joystick configuration right away. All right, so there you go. That was a good point out, a good call out. I was definitely unaware of that little feature. So hopefully you guys learned something tonight. I know I did. So thanks to Raphael for leaving that comment and sharing. That was actually very helpful to know. All right, next up, Jerry Zito says, John, thanks, but I ran into a brick wall. I got the firmware and sounds, but when I hit the themes, I got site restricted and could no longer access GitHub. So here's the deal, guys. I've talked about this before. There is some kind of bug on the EdgeTX GitHub for themes. The developers know about it. I've told them, and I've told the lead developer. They know. And the issue is it's got something to do with GitHub. So there's two things you can do. The first one is to log in. It's to get a login. You get a login, then you'll have the ability to get past that issue. And then the other one is that I've posted the direct link a couple of times, so see if you can get a direct link. But yeah, it is unfortunate. It's some kind of permissions bug on GitHub. They are aware of it. I don't think the EdgeTX guys can solve it. They're relying on GitHub to fix it. but it's some kind of goofy permissions thing with the themes folder on the EdgeTX GitHub. All right. All right, let's see. I'm looking at comments. 33 watching. Hit that like button. Yeah, hit the like button. That's awesome. I appreciate that. Captain Bryce says, that's correct. Pressing exit sends the cancel command, but holding exit just kills the script. Well, there you go. Now we know. Knowing is half the battle. Hey, Bry, is there any way to say long press to keep the Bluetooth connection alive? Is there any way to maybe add that to the Lua? That'd be helpful, because I've actually tinkered with that, and I didn't know. I had no idea until someone pointed it out. I don't know. I don't know if I saw that in the book or not, but I'm not going to claim to have read the instructions on the book. I just turned on Bluetooth and it worked, so I didn't read the book on it. All right. So anyway, yep, that's the thing on the themes. You got to go log in and log in or get the direct link. So it's a bug on GitHub. All right, number 9, man, you have hands down. All right, this is No Plans Garage. Man, you have hands down the best, most comprehensive videos about this hobby, and second isn't even close. Thanks for all your work. He's my new favorite subscriber of the week. So thanks for that. No Plans Garage. That was a hell of a nice comment. I appreciate you. You have the best content out there in the hobby, and second isn't even close. So that makes me feel good. It's really nice to see that hard work pays off and you guys are benefiting from it. And to get an unsolicited response like that just makes my day. So I appreciate the comment. Favorite comment of the week. I think that's going to be a new segment. The comment of the week. We should do that. All right. Jeeves says, you do absolutely fantastic tutorials. Thank you. Wondering if it's usual for wanting some kind of criteria such as a min throttle for disarm. I view disarm as a way to kill the model in case of emergency as well as keep it safe before takeoff, as it's not always the case. I actually have a video to do exactly that. So the reason I brought this comment and put it on the channel for you guys is to encourage you to go look at my EdgeTX and OpenTX content. The chances are pretty high, and even the Express LRS stuff, to be honest with you, the chances are pretty high at this point that if you have a question about it, I've probably done a video on it already, probably. I would say the odds are fairly high. So the reason I brought this question up is to encourage you guys, because I get these types of questions quite a bit, to go search on my channel before you ask, because you'll find out that I've got several hundred OpenTX and EdgeTX and Express LRS, not hundreds of Express LRS, but combined, you know, as a group, hundreds of OpenTX, EdgeTX, and Express LRS tutorial type videos. So make sure you search the channel first. You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised what you find. And if you just binge watch the channel, that doesn't hurt my feelings either. You know what I'm saying? Boy, that doesn't work when you miss the damn button and can't get it right. And if you go binge watch all my stuff, that doesn't hurt my feelings either. You know what I'm saying? See, it works better when you get the timing right. Stupid buttons. Okay, let's see. What's next? Number 11. Jolly Roger says, a lot of good information. I'm a bit older trying to digest this. My main interest is having reliable packs and have those packs perform as long as possible. Nah, that's not the main interest. Batteries are consumable. Come on, guys. Batteries are consumable. They always have been. They're expected to go down. Sure, you want to treat them well and get what you can out of them, but once they start to die, get rid of them. Buy another one. It's not, come on. You're not buying a mortgage here. I have let the charger, if I see a battery start to underperform, it's out. I don't mess around with it. It's out. I just get another one. The $13 for a 3S2200 at rcbattery.com. Go get one. All right, I've let the charger go. It's the default charge of about 4.2 volts per cell. But would it be better to go slightly less? Yes, it actually is better. It will prolong your battery life to go slightly less. 4.18 is supposedly, according to MIT, can extend the battery life up to 75%. So just don't go to 4.2, go to 4.18. Slightly lower, get a lot more battery life out of your batteries. So the next part is, and I have flown to about a good storage value and quit. So 3.8. So you're saying that I could safely take a pack down to lower? Yes, you can. 3.6 is fine. Okay, but does that seem to harm the battery? No, not really. If I start taking them down closer to your 3.6 cutoff area, no, it does not. I wouldn't have recommended it if I thought for a minute that it was going to harm a battery. So now what I will say is you start going below that, you take your life in your hands. I'm just going to say it. You go below 3.6, you take your life in your hands. Don't do that. 3.6, I 100% believe that's the number. I had a lot of people come in and say, what about the amperage? I don't care. 3.6 is the number. if I apply a higher, and I put the image on Discord. If you apply a higher amperage, the curve, the discharge time shortens. Yes, that's true. But the curve is the curve. And it will still drop rapidly, flatten out, hit 3.6, and then fall off a cliff. It doesn't matter if you're doing it at 2 amps, 5 amps, 10 amps. Doesn't matter. It's all the same. The only thing that changes is how fast these things occur. That's it. And you might hit a little bit more sag. Keep that in mind. That is a fair statement. You will sag it a little bit. So you might have to, if you're a quad flyer, for example, and you're regularly hitting it at 40 amps, yeah, you might go down below 3.6, but that's not the curve. That's sag. That's a different thing altogether. So the curve is the curve. So what I would say is that any normal discharge value, any normal discharge amperage, you're going to see that curve reappear over and over and over. And if you go below 3.6 sustained, your life in your hands. Now, can you go down to 3.5 or 3.4 on sag? Sure. Yeah, you can do that, but not sustained. There's a big difference between the two. And I think that's it. That is it. That's the end of the Q&A. So that brings us back up to the top. All right. I got to have something in this camera. But I don't have a radio. Why don't I have a radio on the camera tonight? There we go. Bring the radio out. I like this radio. It's a good looking radio. Sharps. All business, man. That carbon fiber, the murdered out black leather on the sides, the black buttons on the top, black handle. I like it, man. This is a good looking radio. I think it's one of the best looking radios I've had in a while. All right, I'm going to check comments, and then we're going to wrap this one up. One job. I second that comment. Oh, thanks, Hobie. I appreciate you. Second to none. Yeah, thank you, man. I appreciate you. And I have the second best hanger. You have a freaking good hanger, that's for sure. Make sure you hit the like button when you binge watch. Yeah, binge watch and hit the like button. I like the way Hobie thinks. No doubt about it. Okay. Let's see. Glenn Chia says, haven't gotten to, but I'd like to thank you for all the EdgeTX guides, especially the TX16S front plate replacement, which got my TX16S facelift to come through safely. Yeah, you're welcome. That was a good video, wasn't it? Radio Master called me and asked me if I would, no, you know what? I asked them if they'd like me to do a video, and they said, sure, go ahead and pick the stuff. And I did the video. That was fun. If it was just me doing it alone, I might have lost a transmitter. I have a question regarding mobile charger, though. Since you have recommended the X6, does it have a cutoff for the input back? Yes, the X6 absolutely does. In fact, not only does it have a cutoff, since you asked the question, let's bring that little bad boy out here. I'll show you the input options for the X6. I love this X6, man. This X6 it's the bomb. Oh, here, press the switch to select the input source. So let me do the overhead camera. Here's the iCharger, and I have 4 different ones defined on mine. So I can say the top one is my desktop power supply. That is 10 volts min, and I choose not to go below that. 30 amps max, 300 watts non-regenerative. Those are the parameters of my desktop power supply. So I use that one. And then I've got this guy selected, which is my Life battery bank, 24 volt min, 35 amps max, 800 watts, 29.2 max, 29.2 max. So if I click on that and then long press, that becomes my, did it become my input source? No, it didn't. It still says number 1. I think I haven't figured that button press out right. There we go. So there we go. Now I can select it. And now that's my input source. So you get 4 different input source profiles you can define. And if you want to see what the input profiles allow you to do, let's do this. We'll highlight it and press enter. And we can set a low voltage limit, a current limit, a power limit, and then a regen voltage limit, which is really good because this will keep you from over regenning into your battery. And you can set a regen current limit, regen power, and a regen capacity if you want. So very nice options on the iCharger X6 for input profiles. Very nice. And you can change them when you turn the iCharger on. You can select it or do nothing and it'll use your last one. So good question. And yes, these things are great, man. They're well thought out. The navigation can be a little kludgy sometimes, but once you get used to it, they're very well thought out. The capabilities on the device, for sure, very well thought out. And don't forget to take a look at the S6. The S6 is a little bit newer, a little bit more power, slightly larger, but I think overall same form factor. I kind of want to get one just to see. But I'm invested in these. I've got 3 of these now. I don't want to replace $300 worth of chargers. So the S6, Sierra 6, that's another option for you as well, in case you're interested. Okay, let's see. The hills have FPV. That sag mattered. That sag does matter. It does matter, but the curve is the curve. That's all I'm trying to say. The curve is the curve. So you just have to understand if you're sagging. So if you're hitting the amperage hard, you need to set your alert up so that your alert accounts for that sag. That's all I'm suggesting. But the other point is that when you hit 3.6 sustained, if that's where the actual current is, after that point, you take your life in your hands. So you just have to understand what your sag is and deal with it, right? But when you actually hit 3.6 in a meaningful way, where you are actually at 3.6, that's where you have to stop flying. All right, let's see. If you sag to 3.4, that chemistry is still being damaged. Maybe not through the whole battery, but still. You know, that's the part that I don't get into regarding the damage, because I've heard 3.3, I've heard 3.0. And honestly, nobody produces empirical data. Like, nobody ever says, it's 3.3 and here's why. They say it, but they don't show what actually got damaged, and not in a scientific way that I've ever seen. So that's why for me, it's 3.6. Because after 3.6, it doesn't matter. After 3.6 sustain, you're in no man's territory anyway. It's all luck after that. All right. Bradley says, John, thanks for the great content. As always, you're welcome. Glenn says, nice show and tell. Is there anything messing on this against the B6 Neo? Is there anything missing on this against the B6 Neo? The PD, it doesn't have PD output. That's the only thing. It's got a little power output, which I don't care. It actually has a working fan, which is something the B6 Neo can't seem to figure out. And the screen is plainly visible in daylight, which the B6 Neo suffers a little bit. And it stays working past 1 day at the field. So I'd say it's got a couple things over that the B6 Neo is missing for sure. But if you have a B6 Neo, throw it in the blender, sell it while it works, get your money out of it. No, don't do that. Because that's rude. Then you're dumping your problem on somebody else. Just get rid of it. They were $35. Eat it as a loss. Get yourself an iCharger X6 and you'll be a happy guy. John Larawan says, I'm looking for field charging toolbox ideas. Well, they're on my channel, man. I made a really nice box. In fact, I've even done some recaps on the box too. But if get on Discord, man. If you're on Discord and you want to see, I'll put a camera on Discord and let you take a look at mine. My box is pretty sweet. It can take 12, 24, and 110. Yep. Hobie's right. It can take AC, DC. It's a 600 watt power supply if it's on AC. And right now I'm feeding it with a 24 volt, 100 amp hour life battery setup when I'm on DC, and that works fantastic. And talk about regen. When I'm done with the battery, I can pump it back into my life batteries at 30 amps. I love it. 35 amps with the iCharger X6. Regen up to 35 amps. So I can take one of these batteries, if it's at say 3.9 or 4.0 or whatever, I can dump this back into my life setup at 35 amps. Man, it's done in a minute. It's really good. I like it a lot. I like my battery setup a lot. It's my charger box is good to go. All right, let's see. I don't see any other questions, and we are at the end. So in terms of what's coming up, all right, what's coming up? T-Motor. I have some T-Motor gear inbound. They had a holiday over there, and I guess the order got held up. They didn't get the order out before the holiday hit, but they just came back in, and they're supposed to get my order out. So I have some T-Motor gear on the way. Extreme Flight allegedly got a container. They've got some stock coming in. I'm waiting for something to hit. When it hits, I'm going to order it. I've got a plan for an Extreme Flight plane that I want to show you guys. I don't want to reveal it just yet. I kind of want to get it first and get my hands on it. But when I do, I'll let the patrons know. Patrons will get a first look at that one on patreon.com/RC Video Reviews. I got a tier for $3 a month if you want to help. You like the content that I do here. You want to help me get more stuff, do these kinds of experiments and put this kind of stuff together and figure out how all this stuff works, and then do a video to show you, which is what I do. Patreon.com, you can help out that way. And I do want to give a shout out to my patrons. Thank you guys. I appreciate you very much for opening your wallets and helping me with the burden of running the channel, the financial burden. I do appreciate that. All the money I get from patreon.com goes right back into the channel. So I do appreciate you guys helping out that way greatly. Really, it is meaningful. And if you want to help, $3 a month on patreon.com. But if not, that's cool too. It's all good. Do if your budget allows and you're good to help, great. If not, I understand. No worries. So that's it. I got the T-motor thing on the way in. I actually did do an idle up curve on the 85 inch. I have not taken the 85 incher out to fly, so I still got to get that second flight on the G2 done to let you guys know about that ZTW ESC and if that idle up thing works. And I think that's all I've got on the radar right now. New plane, some T-motor gear, and the G2 ZTW testing. So that's it. That's what's on the radar. And that's it. So I hope you guys enjoyed the Pilot Jam. Thanks for hanging out with me on Saturday night. We only have 2 weeks to go, 2 more Saturdays, and then we're going to move back to our regularly scheduled Friday nights. Okay, so 2 more Pilot Jams on Saturday, and then football season is over. And this is sadly our last football season because my son will not be playing in college. He's not going to make the pros. So this will be my last year of organized sports. So I'm kind of bummed out about that, but that's the way it is. So after that, we won't have football season Pilot Jams anymore. This will be the last one. All right, guys. Thanks for hanging out with me on Saturday night. I hope you enjoyed the Pilot Jam. I hope you enjoy the channel. Keep watching. Keep subscribing. Tell your friends. Referrals are great. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button and comments after a video. Even if you just want to say, hey, thanks for putting the video up. Anything. All of that stuff helps. So I appreciate every bit of it. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your weekend. Go fly some.